What was that? Was that a cue? I don't know how this works. Okay, well. We're here today to talk about Sega, the Japanese video game company that was not originally Japanese. Yeah, Sega didn't start in Japan at all. In fact, despite being the brainchild of 3 American businessmen, it might technically not even be an American company either. See, in 1940, 3 guys named Martin Bromley, Irving Bromberg, and James Humpert, formed a coin-op company called Standard Games in Honolulu, Hawaii. Expert historians might remember that Hawaii wasn't even a state until 1959, so Sega's got them beat by almost 20 years. The other thing worth pointing out here is that Standard Games was mostly producing slot machines at the time, specifically marketed to the island's military bases. And as we all know, Hawaii was a famously safe and lucky place for our nation's military to be in the 1940s. After the war, in honor of the military forces they were focused on at the time, they decided to change their name to Service Games. And when the US government outlawed slot machines in the 50s, they jumped ship to Tokyo, eventually releasing game machines for the Japanese public. In 1960, Service Games decided to abbreviate their name to Sega Corporation, and a few years later, they merged with Rosen Enterprises, another successful coin game company run by David Rosen, an Air Force veteran of the Korean War stationed in Japan. Together, the two companies became Sega Enterprises. The next year, Sega produced a mechanical coin-operated game developed by Rosen called Periscope. Maybe that's where the name of the app came from. No, that doesn't make any sense. Why do people film this way anyway? There's so much extra space. Can we do something about this space? Good. Anyway, when I said mechanical, I meant it. The game was made up of pulleys and chains in an era before electronic video games. Did you watch our Kirby videos? Yeah, this game came out 6 years before Pong. And like any other game we'd take that much time to actually single out, this one has its own place in gaming history. Periscope holds the honor of being the very first game in American and European arcades to cost $0.25 to play. Which, come to think of it, wouldn't that have actually been really expensive for the 60s? I mean, $0.25 was all a gallon of gas cost. A movie ticket was only $1. Congrats, Sega. You were fucking expensive. Neat. Anyway, in 1969, Rosen sold the company to Gulf and Western Industries, and that's actually the last time Sega didn't have a parent company. Yeah, for 47 years, Sega's been under someone else's thumb. In the 70s, Sega took off with their revolutionary arcade machines. They had a string of successes throughout the decade, even inventing metal games in Japan, and creating the system used in tons of arcade cabinets through the end of the 80s. This all came to a head in 1982 when they released Zaxxon, the first isometric game, Subrock 3D, the first stereoscopic 3D game, and Astron Belt, the first Laserdisc game, actually beating Dragon's Lair to the punch. Amidst all these groundbreaking titles, Sega made over $214 million that year. Not bad for relying on people putting $0.25 in the slot. But then, Sega, in a harrowing bit of foreshadowing, decided to start porting Atari games in 1983. So then, as the home console industry crashed, they decided to take a stab at the SG-1000, a system that came out on the same day as the Famicom. Their profits dropped 36%. And so, the Rosen Company decided to sell off Sega's American assets to Bally Manufacturing. You know, the pinball guys. But they decided to hold on to the Japanese assets, along with new investors Robert Deeth and Hayao Nakayama, and got bought out by a holdings company called CSK. I don't know. So, in 1985, after 2 struggling iterations of the SG console, Sega released the Mark III. You might know it as the Sega Master System. Unfortunately, its release coincided exactly with another Nintendo product. You've probably never heard of it. Sega needed help. If they were going to make up their lost ground, they needed a mascot who could take on the world. Someone big and memorable and cool. And I know just the guy.